Okay, so in this short video, we are going to see how you can create a connector for the Intapp Collaboration Platform for use within Power Automate. Why would you do this? Well, this allows you to make calls onto the Intapp API for the Intapp Collaboration Platform without having to pass in API keys each time, and by simply creating actions, Intapp actions directly within your Power Automate without having to define API methods and define payload structures and things like that. This is a much more elegant way of allowing you to construct your Power Automates calling onto the Intapp Collaboration Platform API. The starting point is to create an open API definition file. How we do this is in the Intapp Collaboration Platform itself. We go to the settings screen and go to reference here. On the reference screen, here of course this is where you can set your API key or see your API key, but you can also view the API itself. And if I click on View API, what that will do is take me to this Swagger page, which lets me see all of the available methods within the Intapp Collaboration Platform. And you can see, obviously, if you've used the API before, there are quite a few methods. How do we convert this into a usable connector for use within Power Automate? Well, the first step is to get a definition of the API in JSON format. Easiest way to get that is actually on the screen in front of you, right? It's a little bit hidden initially. If you look at the URL in the address bar here, it's swagger/UI/index, okay? If you look at this box here, you'll see it's got a reference to docs/v2. All we need to do is take this URL and put it into the address bar. Annoyingly, you can't copy and paste, so all you need to do is go in here and just replace the UI with docs/v2 as shown here. Press return, and this looks like an error at first glance. It's not. This is a JSON definition of the Intapp API. If you're using Chrome like I am, you've got this option to use PrettyPrint, which will format the JSON into a bit more of a slightly more intelligible format, but this is essentially the definition of the API provided by Intapp. Our next step here is to save this off as a JSON file. I'm on Chrome here on a Mac, so all I'm going to do is right click and click on Save As, and I'm going to call this my ICP API full version. Why I'm calling it that will become apparent in a few moments. Click on Save. And there we go. I've now saved this API definition off as a JSON file to my local machine. Let's take a quick look at it. So if I go here and right click on the recently downloaded file and open with JSON editor, okay, you'll have your own JSON editor, of course, but for me, I'm using this JSON editor application that will show me then a more structured representation of this API definition. If I expand the paths node here, this is essentially all of the API methods that are provided by Intapp. So what we saw through the Swagger UI a few moments ago, now you're seeing it here in this definition file. And of course, as you can see here, there are quite a lot of methods. If I do a quick check, I can see here that there are actually 359 different methods here. And that presents a small issue, okay? And the issue is that when you import this JSON file into Power Automate to create a connection, Power Automate only supports up to 256 methods per custom connector. That leaves us with a bit of a problem. Good news is it's easily sorted. Okay, so what you can do is remove or prune out the methods that you're not needing or not using. What I'm going to do here is simply duplicate this file. Okay, there we go. And I'm going to call my duplicate a cut down copy. Okay, cut down copy. Again, same kind of thing. Let me go back to paths, and I'm going to get rid of or prune out the methods that I know that I'm not going to need as part of my project. Now, I'm not going to do this judiciously on this call or in this video. I'm just going to right click and just delete a load of these methods that perhaps I just don't need. And there we go. That was quite convenient. I now have 253 methods left within my connection or within my JSON file. When you're doing this for real, make sure you're only removing the methods that you know you're not going to be using. Now that I've done that, let me go ahead and click on Save to save my cut down copy. My full version's still there. And there we go. So you can see the difference. The full version is 746 kilobytes. My cut down version is 598. So it's a much shorter API definition containing only the methods that I'm actively interested in. So that's all good. Next step now is to bring this into Power Automate. How do we do that? Well, let's go to Power Automate. On this screen, the option to create a custom connector is actually pretty well hidden. So what you need to do is click on More on the left hand side, and then click on Discover All on the pop-up which appears. Then scroll down, and here on the right hand side you will find this custom connectors. This is correct as of January 2026. Over time Microsoft might move this to a different location again, but it'll be somewhere within the Power Automate screens. For now, let me go ahead and click on custom connectors. I have a few custom connectors already in place where I've done this previously. I'm going to create a new custom connector. I'm going to create a new custom connector from an open API file, which is the JSON file that I created a few moments ago. I'm going to give this connector a name, so Intapp ICP demo connector. I'm going to import the file that I created using the cut down copy of the API definition. Click on Open and Continue. On this screen, I can give my connector an icon, so it's worth doing that because it makes it nice and easily identifiable when you're actually building your Power Automates. So I'm going to upload, I know I have an Intapp logo here, so let me just quickly search for it. Intapp logo, I'll use this nice square logo. There we go, that's quite nice. Leave the rest of these settings as is. Let's go to the next screen. Security for this connector is using an API key, which is standard Intapp authentication mechanism for the API, so leave that as is. Click on definition. This will now show all of the methods that we're going to bring in a few moments. Okay, so that's all okay. That's all fairly straightforward. We're bringing in 254 actions. Remember, anything more than 256, it would throw an error. That's why we did the pruning of those redundant methods. Let's go ahead now and click on Create Connector, and that will begin the process of creating my demo connector. It'll take a few seconds, but once it's created, that is the connector created. Next step then is to create a connection using this connector. So let's work away. We can see it's been successfully created. I'll click on Close here. That's all good. Okay, so let's just confirm that my custom connector is created. Let me just refresh the page. And there we go. There is my demo connector. What I'm going to do now is create a connection from this connector using this connector. Okay, so what I do here is click on plus. Here I put in the API key. Okay, that's the API key for your Intapp Collaboration Platform instance. So keep that obviously very, very secure. It's effectively a password. So use your API key here. Go ahead and just put that in and create my connection. And there we go. I've just created a connection using my new connector. Now that we've done this, the final step is to actually use the thing. So what we can do is now go in and create a new flow. Okay, so I'm going to create a new instant cloud flow that will be manually triggered. We go ahead and create the flow. I'm going to turn off the designer here, the new designer, simply because I prefer the existing designer. I'm going to go ahead and put in a new step. And if I choose custom, there we go. There is my connectors. Okay, there is my connection. Let me go ahead and select it. And when I choose it, there are now all of the methods that are available for me to use, and they're presented essentially as actions within Power Automate. So really simple example, if I wanted to create something, just search for that method, create. There we go. So create whatever it is I want to create an item, create provision, or if I wanted to update metadata on an item, again, I can just search for the method and choose the method that I'm actually interested in. So if I wanted to update metadata by code, for example, select that. And now you can see I can now populate the values in this action with the values that I want to use from the remainder of my Power Automate higher up. So this gives you a much nicer way of building out your actions for making calls onto the Intapp API from within Power Automate. Really important point is you also don't have to provide an API key every time, because that's been defined once when you initially defined your connection.